Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today I'm going to use a stamp set from the annual catalogue that's called Beautiful Friendship, and it's one of the distinctive stamps, which means when you stamp with it you can probably just tell from the cover here. You get some dark pieces, some light pieces, some sort of medium stamp strength, all from just using the one ink and pushing down on the stamp once. You don't need lots of different colours to create lots of tones. And it is a photopolymer stamp set, and these are some of my favourite stamps because it means when you're using them, let me just take one out, you can see through them, so when you're stamping you can line things up, and if you want to have something very close to what you've already stamped, you can see really easily where the edge of one stamp is and where the edge of a second stamp is. So I like these. The only thing that you have to remember if you're using these is that they haven't got the cushioning that the red rubber has. So when you're stamping, you need to have something underneath your card, and you can have a stamping mat, you can have sort of a thickness of paper, sort of 5 or 6 sheets of paper. But if you're not getting a good impression from these, it's probably because you haven't got the cushioning underneath. Now I often, oh, I've just thrown it away. Let me pick it up again. I often use my stamping mat from Stampin' Up when I'm stamping just single cards. But usually when I'm videoing, I use my bigger mat, and I have a, let me just show you, I have a larger, thick stamping mat. But ordinarily when I'm just stamping on my own, this is the perfect size, and I just use this. Okay, so let's have a look at this stamp set. It is in the annual catalogue, and it was one of those stamp sets that I loved when I saw it, but I didn't buy it straight away. I didn't have the budget to buy everything I wanted, but really I should have had this on the beginning of my list. Because when you look at it, these are cards that Stampin' Up have made. It just reminded me of my mum's garden back in England. She has a garden full of roses and lily of the valley, daffodils, tulips, you name it, it's in mum's garden. She even has foxgloves and delphiniums that she actually took back from Canada, from my garden, and they've carried on growing in her garden. They died long ago in my garden, but Mum still has them. And it's just one of those old-fashioned English kind of gardens, and this reminded me of it. And so today's card, I'm going to try and use just a couple of the stamps. I'm only going to use this little rose here and the leaf, and I'm going to make my whole card just with those two. But this one is also one of my favourites, the hydrangea. It's one of my daughter's favourite flowers, and I know she's having this in her wedding next year, and I'm trying to think of some sort of card that I can make for her that has this hydrangea in it. So let's get on with what we're going to make today. Okay, so the card I'm making is, as I said, I'm just using the two stamps, and I've actually cut a couple out just to show you. That's everything. The only other stamp I am using is this one that says I love our beautiful friendship. And honestly, you don't need many ink colours, you don't need many stamp sets. You can always create a beautiful card just from having one stamp set and even only one ink colour, especially when it's distinctive inks. So if you did want to order this set, you can go to either my Crafts by the Bow blog spot or my Facebook one, but make sure that you use the code, the hostess code, I had a lady last month place an order and she forgot to use the code, and unfortunately it can't be reapplied after the fact. So she didn't get her host rewards or anything, but try and remember to use it. Go into the Stampin' Up website under this code. Don't go in, sort of sort your order out and then try and find the code, because that's not how you can do it. You have to go in with the code and it opens a special page. And this month, for all orders, I'm giving a handmade card, and orders over $50 you will get a pack of the beautiful Noble Peacock rhinestones. Okay, so my two colours that I chose are Blushing Bride and Pear Pizzazz. And I wanted to do my flowers in Blushing Bride and my leaves in Pear Pizzazz. And so I wanted the base of my card to match one of my ink colours, but I couldn't decide which one. And I loved the Pear Pizzazz, and I loved the little bit darker Old Olive, and I also loved the Mossy Meadow. And Stampin' Up have such a beautiful range of colours. I love their greens, but I can never decide which one. So in the end, I did just eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I chose Mossy Meadow. So I have a basic Mossy Meadow card cut at 8.5 by 5.5 and has a little bit of glue on the back, and scored at 4.25, folded in half, just ready for our base. You're also going to need, just move these stamp sets, you're going to need a piece of Blushing Bride, well actually two pieces, one for the outside, one for the inside. And these are cut at 5.25 by 4. And then you're going to need 2 pieces of Whisper White. I've already cut one, but the second one I haven't cut yet. So the Whisper White, I don't want it to have a big border. You know, like normally we have that sort of 1/4 inch border. I only want 1/8 of an inch border. So I'm cutting this just a bit smaller, and it's at 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. Now, remember that when you're counting these, let me show you. When you're counting these, each little line is a 16th, the next one is 1/8, another 16th, another 1/8. So I only want 5 1/8. So I'm going past the small line onto the next one. So it's the biggest line before the 1/4 inch. I don't work in centimetres, so I'm afraid I don't know what the conversion is for that. Okay, and then this way we want 3 7/8. Now we know that these are eighths, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's the big line before the fourths, before the 4 inch, I mean. Okay. So we're going to start with our stamping. And when I put this on the card, I want to have a little border down the right hand side. And so that I know whereabouts I want to stamp, I've cut just a little piece of scrap paper. You don't have to do this at all. It just helps me when I'm trying to work out where I can stamp up to. I've put a glue dot on the back, and I'm just going to line it up just like this with the edge. That means it will come off really easily because it's only on with one glue dot. But it just shows me where the edge of my card is going to be. And now let me just get a piece of scrap to put this on so that I can stamp. Okay. There we go. Now, I've chosen the smaller rose and the leaf set that has 3 leaves on it. And I'm going to stamp my roses first with the Blushing Bride. Let me just move those over a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to tap, tap, tap with the ink on this stamp. If you find when using distinctive stamps you have a lot of ink and you're not getting the definition you want, probably means that your pad has got too much ink on. And what I did with this stamp set just before we started and with this ink, let me see where I've popped my spoon. I've hidden it somewhere, I can't just see where I've hidden it. Oh, excuse me, there it is. What I did was I used my spoon and I just scraped some of the ink off to the edges and left the middle of it a little bit drier. And that means I haven't got too much ink, and when I apply the ink onto my card it won't be a big splodge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 5 roses. I'm going to spread them out a little bit, put some on an angle. That's it. Doesn't matter if it goes onto this piece of paper because it will be covered with a piece of DSP. That's all that I'm going to put on the card, but on a piece of scrap paper I'm going to stamp just 1. In fact, I'll stamp 2. I'm just going to stamp 2 more. Okay, and that's all that we need for that. Okay, so I can put this ink away. Next I'm going to stamp the leaves. And although this is a really simple card for stamping and everything, it looks really pretty. Okay, so I've got my Pear Pizzazz. And again, if your ink pad is too juicy like mine was, scrape a bit to the side and that helps. And then I'm just going to put a few leaves in here. Don't worry if it overlaps the flowers just a little bit. Oops. I'm turning the leaves around a little bit as well so that it doesn't look like they're all the same. That's probably enough. I don't need any more than that. I am going to stamp just 2 on my scrap paper though. It doesn't matter if it's near to the flowers because we're going to fussy cut them. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that to dry for a moment, and while that's drying I'm just going to cut out, I'm just going to cut 1 of each out. Sorry, I just dropped something on the floor, I had to pick it up. Okay, now doesn't have to be very delicate fussy cutting or anything. I'm just going to leave a tiny white border around the edge. And as I say, you'll need 2 of these, but they don't have to be perfection. Makes it easy. The stamp's a really easy one to cut out, so you know, Stampin' Up make their images really nice for fussy cutting. And can you see how even on the green we get those 2 tones in there? And I think if you don't have a lot of ink pads, the distinctive stamps mean that you can, you know, see lots of colours even though you might not have too many ink pads. If you don't have many ink pads and you're using stamps that are not distinctive, make sure you just stamp off once. And so if you stamp onto a piece of scrap paper and then onto your card, that gives you a lighter colour. So you can still do, like, first generation is what we call when you stamp once. Stamp off and is second generation, and you get 2 tones. I think sometimes we get a little bit caught up thinking, oh, I need to have, you know, 18 ink pads, and really you don't. You only need a basic set of colours, and you know, you can make lots of different colours from that. You can even do 3rd generation stamping for really pale colours, and that's pretty too. Okay, now that's as much stamping as going on there, so I'm just going to carefully peel this glue dot off. And don't worry if it leaves a little mark like that, because we're going to cover it up. And the next thing you need to do is to stamp your sentiment. And this is the one I'm using. I just stamped it on a piece of scrap paper. Here we are. I just stamped it on scrap in Memento Black, but you could use the Pear Pizzazz or the Blushing Bride. You don't have to have another colour. And then I'm using one of our labels. This is Timeless label, and I'm just going to punch that out, and I'm going to make it so that the writing is in the middle. Sometimes I'll have it so that the writing's on the side if I want to sort of stamp something over here or add a little embellishment. But today I'm just going to punch it so that that's in the middle. Okay, and I generally stamp things like this twice so that if one doesn't look quite right after I've punched it, I don't have to get all the inks out again and start and do again. Okay, so that we need the one that we fussy cut, and I'm going to need a couple of these, just the little leaves. And let's start to put our card together. So for the inside, we're going to use one of the Blushing Bride pieces with one of the white pieces on top. We're just going to glue those together and pop them in the inside. And you can see I've already done that. And you can see also that I've used a little piece of DSP. If you don't have lots of different DSPs and you don't have one that matches, use a little piece of cardstock in a different colour. Or stamp your own DSP. Let me show you, use just a piece of white, get some of your stamps out, stamp all over, and then just cut a piece off. But I'm using a little piece of DSP from the Pressed Petals. And it's the one that's like the burlap, and it's got the leaves on the back. There's some beautiful papers in here, but I didn't want anything to overpower where I was putting my flowers. So I just wanted this little piece, and this is cut at just 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/8. So it's the same length as our base here. And I'm going to attach it to that right-hand side, just where we had that little piece of scrap for when we were stamping. Okay, and just, you can attach it with any adhesive you want. You could even put it on with tear tape, if you have tear tape, and that makes it easier. Okay, then I'm just going to line up the bottom and this left-hand edge. Well, it's my left-hand edge. It'll be the right hand of the card. Okay, and you can see it's covered over just a little bit of our flowers, but that's fine. Okay, let me see. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put our sentiment on. And I want the sentiment to go across the middle like this and off to the side a little bit, so it's just on the DSP. And I'm going to put behind it a few of our little pieces that we fussy cut. And a flower up there as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here. In fact, I'll use a glue dot because that makes it easier still. So just a little glue dot on there. And I'm just going to lay on where I want this sentiment to go. Okay, and then my next one is going to be my rose. Pop a couple of glue dots on that. And let me see where I want this to be. I want it to sort of be over here, so I still got 5 of the roses, but just coming off to the side a little bit. Now I have covered one of the roses up, and you might wonder why I even bothered stamping that. It was just in case when I laid my sentiment down you could see a little bit, and I didn't want a big white space, so I'd rather see just a little bit of the flower than just a big white space. Okay, and then last of all I'm going to pop another little leaf on here. In fact, I might even put a third leaf on. Let's get that one we cut out a moment ago. I think it would look nice with a third leaf. Yeah. Oops, dropped off. Oh, I stuck the thing on the wrong end. going to put one on the top as well, because it just won't catch on that leaf where I wanted it to catch. There we go. Okay, so this piece we're going to attach to the Blushing Bride card. I think this would look gorgeous in any colours, especially in a real red. Wouldn't that look nice for an anniversary card or a birthday card? Just bright, you know, beautiful red roses. That would look pretty. It's that little piece of black that I've got on there. There we are. Okay, and then I'm going to attach this to the base of the card. Let's close this up. Make sure we've got an even border all the way around. Can you see how just having that little tiny piece of pink behind just brings those flowers right out, just makes them pop. Okay, and then this I'm going to put on with a couple of dimensionals. I'm going to put one behind the rose and then one so that it's on the leaf and the label, and oops, the same over here, so it just catches a little bit of that leaf. Let's put another one on for good luck. And take the back ends off. I'm going to have such a lot of fun with this stamp set because it makes flowers that are so quick and simple to make it look as though you've done a lot of stamping, and of course you haven't. And there we go. And I think it just, because it's got the distinctive stamps and they're different colours, it really pops. Now, you could leave it like that. If you wanted to jazz it up a little bit, you could always put a little piece of white twine round with a little bow. You could use some of the rhinestones or the, oh, what do they call those? Those sequins with the adhesive backs. Let's have a look at those. I've got some just over on the side here. And I think they do have the green in, so let's have a look. Oops. I think these are actually seafoam green. Let's see if I can just find my little paper piercer. I'm just going to put 3 of these on. I'm going to put one on the little label, and then let's have one up here and one over here, and that just draws your eye down towards the leaves and everything. Okay, so there's my card for today. Wasn't it easy and quick? I'm going to love this set. I hope you do too. So thank you ever so much for watching me. I hope to see you all again on Sunday. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.